On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, it is the offensive line preview, third position preview we're doing as we get you guys ready for the new season. Had quarterbacks and running backs over on the YouTube and audio channels. So go listen to those if you haven't. But talk for about 30 minutes about Mizzou's offensive line, did some Cayden Green projection stuff, talked a bunch about the left tackle battle, what we're kind of expecting there. Along with the right side, which also has some kind of interesting question marks in the trenches for Mizzou. So great segment about the offensive line and just a big preview as they try to replace Armand Membu, which is no mean feat. But we think they have some good players to do it, to be a solid line next year, which is going to be really important, especially if Perbula ends up starting and they have a lot more run-based stuff in their scheme next year. So great preview for the offensive line. A couple of housekeeping things too. We have a new sponsors. You can see by the overlay if you're watching on the YouTube. The Unwritten Rule now brought to you by FanDuel. Super excited to partner with them. We'll have some kind of Mizzou lines and stuff as the games go through, and we'll talk some college football, NFL. We're going to bring the best beats segment back when the NFL season starts as well, and do some national college football. Look at some lines as well. So thank you to FanDuel for partnering with the show. I'm already taking a look. They got plenty of college football bets you can place over there on FanDuel. I was looking at the national championship odds earlier. Texas plus 550 right now on FanDuel on July 31st here when I'm recording this. They have the best odds on FanDuel to win the national title. Arch Manning, it's interesting to me. We'll see if he can prove it. The pedigree stuff, there's probably no reason why he can't. But they're at plus 550. Two teams I like too. National championship odds again, kind of way too early here at just getting August started. But Alabama and Clemson, both plus 1,100. Interesting candidates for me. I love Alabama's defense heading into next year. I think they're going to be really, really good. And then Cade Klubnik, I think he's a stud at Clemson, a little bit more proven kind of quarterback commodity. But yeah, we'll have all sorts of content as well. And super excited to be brought to you by FanDuel and the Believe Network moving forward. So exciting stuff for the Unwritten Rules. We head into August. Exciting stuff for Mizzou football. So without further ado, let's roll right into the offensive line preview. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule, presented here on the Believe Network by FanDuel. Today is Friday, August 1st. Happy August, fellas. July absolutely flew by, I feel like. But now we're in August. The hype, I feel like, really builds towards the start of the season for Mizzou football. We're continuing our position preview discussions. Go back if you're watching, listening. We've got the quarterback and the running backs ones done. So far, we're doing offensive line, which I think can foster a lot of interesting discussions. It's not a skill position, but you have a little bit more like position battles, some more question marks, and just kind of intrigue for that position. Obviously, last year, offensive line produced the best player on this team. If you at least talk to draft people in Armand Membu, who of course became a first-round pick, and that's obviously a big hole to fill, but there's some other intriguing stuff along the offensive line. Just some names, Kenny. This is again, you're gonna fact check me. I think I got all the names. I'll run through them. For the offensive line, I went on the depth chart on Our Lads. This is by no means anything confirmed. I know there's some position battles which we'll talk about. Left tackle Johnny Williams, Javen Richardson. I know Whit Hafer has been discussed at that position as well. Peyton's dogs really love the offensive line. Chatter. Left guard, Cayden Green, Logan Reichert was listed at left guard as well in Our Lads. Center, Connor Tolleson, Tristan Wilson, and maybe Henry Fanuku. I'll let Kenny talk about that maybe later. Right guard, Dominic Guidice, Curtis Piegler. Right tackle, Keegan Tross, Jalen Early, Brandon Solis. A couple of others, Henry McDermott, Ryan Justice. And then a few on Mizzou's roster, guys who did not have numbers listed next to them. Kenny Kirk, if I'm wrong, if they got some yet. Jalen Early, Keaton Jones, and Jack Lang. Did I miss anyone? First off, did I get
No,
a
it's
100% hit rate?
I'm pretty sure Payton and I came to the conclusion it's Gadiche.
Gadiche, that's I meant to ask before we went on live, so I'm sorry to Dominic Gadiche for that, but hopefully we're saying it a lot more.
There's a lot of like numbers that they're not on the roster on online, but they have them like on the roster. They print it out and hand it out. Jalen Early will be number 50. Was Jack Lang another one you mentioned? Jack
Yes.
Lang will be 76. Who
Keaton
was another one?
Jones.
Keaton Jones. Yeah, I'm trying to go down here. It's not in alphabetical order. Keaton Jones will be 68.
Okay, so there's some numbers. So yeah, interesting offensive line room. Obviously, that has a massive hole to fill, particularly in Armand Membu. But that's where I'll go. Kind of the things we're most excited about with the offensive line room. I think to me the biggest theme there, and you boys feel free to share what you're most excited for. But I think for me it's Cayden Green and how he kind of grows into this next season. He's been named to all sorts of preseason accolades, which we love on this show. Including now most recently the Outland Trophy. He's on the watch list for that heading into next season. He was a preseason first team All SEC guy, first team All America by Phil Steele, second team All America by Walter Camp, and a third team by Athlon Sports. I think to me he's the name to watch, guys, from the offensive line heading into next year in terms of how he grows. Can he, continue that strong track record that now Armand Membu is kind of set and be a potential big time breakout guy? It seems like a lot of outlets are saying that, but that's kind of my most exciting thing, I think, for offensive line is Cayden Green and what he's going to be able to do next year at left guard.
Definitely. I think Cayden Green has to be the answer to that question. You can throw, honestly, Connor Tollison in there too. I mean, now, is this his fourth year starting on the O-line, assuming his health is back to tip-top shape, and there doesn't seem to be much trepidation about that. So that makes up what could be a really, really, like, as good a two players on the interior O-line as you can find around the SEC. It's the first time in a while it feels like there's a lot of turnover on the O-line. I mean, last year you still had Cameron Johnson, Armand Membu, along with Connor Tollison in the fold. 2 years ago, you had Javon Foster back again. You had Xavier Delgado, who was a long tenured starter. So this is the first time it really feels like Mizzou's going to have a lot of question marks on the O-line, just not 100% certainty. And I think having two guys that have the experience, Cayden Green, obviously it's only his third year in college, but I mean, last year was, especially in the second half of the season, an excellent starter for this team. Depending on who you ask, might be the best player on this Missouri team. So I think having two guys that I think you would say are pretty rock solid, have no real concerns about, especially one being at center, I think that makes a world of difference for the other three guys coming in. But I do agree, Jack. I think Cayden Green is easily the most exciting thing on the at least starting O-line.
This can be seen as maybe, a thing that maybe some aren't excited about. And I think I'm a little more excited because I've always just been more intrigued by roster building. But I think there's a lot of versatility to this offensive line in this group. Brandon Jones talked about, like, I sat down with him just like one-on-one, everyone was coming in and out, talking to him at different times, and just kind of sat down with him and talked about, like, when do you kind of hope to have this set? And he's like, we could take it all the way to Wednesday, because we just want the best guys, like whoever is that sharp by the end of fall camp, whoever looks the best at each position. And some of them, are kind of locked up, and that they're expecting, Connor Tollison to be ready to play. And he said, maybe as close as they can get to 100%, get to 100% throughout the year, and you're going to get banged up at times. So no one's ever really truly at that 100% mark. Keegan Trost, their right tackle, came in from Wake Forest. And one big thing he mentioned just about that is that Keegan Trost, who I think Payton's mentioned before, he's played like 6 or 7 years of college football now. He just keeps finding eligibility anywhere he can in his back pocket. And Connor Tollison is second in snaps on this team going into this year, like all-time career snaps. And that is kind of crazy to think about, that he was kind of in a spot these last couple of years where he struggled at times and really figured it out last year before he got hurt. So it just kind of comes down to, I think the versatility is a lot of fun. You have really 3 spots that are tied up with Cayden Green at left guard and Keegan Trost at right tackle. And then how do you kind of fit in those other spots? Johnny Williams running with the ones to start camp, and Javen Richardson, Whit Hafer also in that competition right behind him, trying to battle for snaps too. Right guard is up in the air. Jalen Early, Dominic Adichie, 2 transfers. Who's really going to come up and take that spot? Tristan Wilson also in the back end, looking for an opportunity too on the interior. So it's a cool, kind of group and a lot of versatility. And one big thing that Brandon Jones talked about too with me is that he emphasizes and challenges his players to be able to be versatile and play on the interior, because there's 3 interior spots. There's only 2 tackle spots, and they get a lot of tackles out of the portal or out of high school. And he challenges those guys to do as much as they can, because they're going to get an early opportunity on the interior if they're not going to play on the outside.
Well, I think I'll go to the outside for now, because Kenny, I know, we get into kind of some prediction things. I know you have some stuff about some of these younger guys that I do want to talk about with the offensive line and the long-term kind of upside of it with the roster building, like you mentioned. But I think when you go into and I feel bad calling it a concern, because I think you're right. You have a lot of new faces, but I think there's a lot of intrigue with some of these guys that are going to take these spots, particularly at left tackle. And then I think on the whole kind of right-hand side. But, when I think about kind of concerns or questions surrounding this room, to me, like the first thing that springs to mind is that battle at left tackle between Johnny Williams and Javen Richardson. Of course, Williams coming over from West Virginia, he played in 7 games. PFF's got him at 241 snaps, at a 68 run block, 84.5 pass block grade at West Virginia. And then Richardson last year, 4 games, 58 snaps, 78 run block, 62.6 pass block. What are you guys kind of feeling toward that left tackle spot with those 2 guys kind of contending for that? Does it worry you at all with either one of them, and whoever wins the job? I think it's an interesting competition there that, between kind of a newcomer in Williams, there's a lot of experience, and Richardson, I think a guy that they're expecting to sort of step up and grow. And if he can win that job, it's an interesting option as well. What do you guys make of the left tackle battle over there?
I mean, I definitely think that outside of the quarterback battle, this is easily the second, I'd say, biggest storyline going into the season, is that left tackle spot. Missouri's been pretty fortunate with the left tackle play for the most part. Marcus Bryant was a little up and down, but he was still a draft pick and plugged in very nicely for the 1 year there. I think Javon Foster spoiled us for years and years to come, considering how he played at left tackle for his stint here. This is, 2 guys that are complete unknowns. You have Javen Richardson, who came over from a community college last year, got rave reviews, but you still don't really know how he's going to translate. Then you have Johnny Williams, who, like you mentioned, from West Virginia, young redshirt sophomore. He's built like an offensive tackle, no doubt about that. 6'7", 327 on Mizzou's official site. But neither one of them, I think, have a whole ton of game experience. I know Williams, correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, but Williams did have game action at West Virginia, but it wasn't a whole ton. And now stepping into the SEC, obviously, it's a whole nother ball game, and you're going to have a guy that's likely going to have a lot of growing pains, especially comparatively to what we've been used to the last few years. And like we said, we all expect Perbula, I think, to be the starter. But even if it's Horn, the run game is going to be such a massive part of this offense. I think more so even than years past. Wide zone has been their bread and butter. You need good run blocking out of your offensive tackles. Armand Membu turned into a legit monster in the run game. And obviously that was out at right tackle. I don't really have a doubt that Keegan Trost will give you steady play there, being such a long tenured starter. But I think the left tackle, whoever wins it, be Williams or Richardson. I'm not going to say it's going to be Hafer right now, although his weight gain and just his story has kind of intrigued me. They're under a lot of pressure this year. That's a key cog in the machine, and it needs to be handled correctly.
I asked Brandon Jones, I was like, how do you kind of keep these guys grounded in the sense that they have large shoes to fill, Payton? Like you said, Javon Foster really spoiled some Mizzou fans and the expectations. And the next year you had another NFL draft pick at left tackle and Marcus Bryant. So it's filling those shoes, and you kind of expected, when they got Johnny Williams, you're like, okay, then that's the left tackle. Why would he not come in and throughout the spring, throughout the summer, and then going into fall camp, it still hasn't been settled. And, really comes down to, who's going to take that first step. And I think at the end of the day, maybe it's fair to say and assume that Johnny Williams will be the starting left tackle. But it's going to take some time. I think there might be some hiccups early on because it's, really just kind of getting used to an everyday starter in the SEC, because he wasn't even an everyday starter in the Big 12 last year. He's kind of filling in and really filled in at the end of the season for the Mountaineers. But besides center for Mizzou, and this is from Brandon Jones himself, he said this is the second most important position in our position room, offensive line, and they really care about that left tackle, and they're just really trying to look for any kind of consistency that they got the last, 3 or 4 years from those two guys. So it's really big shoes to fill, and I think they all kind of recognize that, and they're trying to figure out the best course of action to really not make it an issue early on, because the second game of the season, it's not a pushover anymore. You're not playing, Louisiana the second year. You're not playing, Louisiana Tech. You are playing Kansas. That is a Power 4 game, and you want that kind of figured out and see some consistency early on.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, for me, it kind of has to be one of those two needs to prove that it's not if you say you have 2 starting caliber left tackles, you really have 0. And again, it is a high bar that they have to reach, like you guys both articulated. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how the battle has been, or how it kind of continues to go. We're only a couple of days into fall camp at the time of recording this, but you look at even just the PFF numbers. I mean, Richardson, in smaller sample size, was the better run blocker. It seemed like Williams' pass blocking was kind of his forte at West Virginia in extended snaps. So, that's going to be an adjustment probably, especially if he's working with a quarterback like Prbula, who likes to run and figure all of that out. But yeah, I think when you look at it, the biggest question, I think we're going to watch that kind of tackle battle closely. I think for me, I want one of the two of them to emerge, really. I kind of don't want it to continue to be a battle. I get really skeptical, especially with offensive linemen, when you hear, well, both are doing a lot of really good things. I don't know. I sort of prefer, when I look at that, it's to see one guy kind of separate himself. But I think either one of them is a very viable candidate, like you guys both said. So that's an interesting one. And then kind of the right side of this offensive line, I'm curious, y'all's take on that. I have a Keegan Truss thing that I'll say in kind of the predictions for next season, but right guard is really interesting with Gidice and Curtis Piegler there. You've got, I feel like Logan Reichert I've seen mentioned on kind of as both left and right guard potentially. What do you guys make of that kind of whole right side of the offensive line? And you can throw right tackle in there, maybe behind Keegan Truss, with some of those younger guys having to fill, again, big shoes like Armand Membu. What's your maybe concern level or questioning level with kind of the whole right side of that offensive line?
I don't think I'd say it's as much concern as with left tackle, just because left tackle is so much more critical, and not having like superb clarity and just having 2 guys that aren't super experienced. That scares me a little on the left side. On the right side, it is 2 brand new starters, obviously. But I mean, you have 2 guys competing for the right guard spot that have Power 4 starting experience in Early and Gidice. So I think either whoever wins that battle, and it seems like just based on the fact that he was here for spring, I'd give I'd assume Gidice has the leg up because Early came in after spring camp and everything. So that's a harder thing to do. And Trost, I mean, we've talked about it a couple times now. Just such a long tenured college football player in general, is coming from a Power 4 school. I think he'll give you solid, steady play there. Maybe won't wow you like Armand Membu used to over at right tackle, but I would assume that they'll be fine plug and play guys on the right side of the O-line, whoever it winds up being. It would be, like you said, it'd be really nice to see Logan Reichert maybe go in and win that, but he's been on campus a few years now, just hasn't been able to break through yet, so I wouldn't bank on it just yet.
Yeah, I think it's more between Gidice and Jalen Early, Payton, like you're saying, and we just really haven't heard Logan's name really break through. I know he was banged up a little bit too at the end of last year, coming into the spring, and just really haven't heard his name much, and that doesn't really always bode well when you're trying to figure out, who's going to be in what spot on this offensive line, who's going to be in the two deep. So I think that's kind of the best case for that. And then one name that did kind of pop up at right tackle was Brandon Solis. Drinkwitz mentioned it. He's like, I really like where he's kind of come. He doesn't think like he's going to take a step forward in the sense that he'll be battling and trying to take Keegan Tross' job, but he is very, very impressed with the redshirt sophomore going into next year and probably just going into the season and see how he can kind of turn up and be that right tackle once Keegan Tross graduates after this season.
Yeah, I think you guys make some good points. I wanted to, and as we kind of go into the, maybe some predictions about the offensive line, I really wanted to make a Logan Riker prediction somewhere, just because I have heard such good things about him, and that was a pretty big, I remember, get recruiting wise, and yeah, it's just I feel like it's been less of a him thing and more because there are a little bit more of steady names ahead of him, and it's a couple of transfers. That's what you get, in this day and age. You have to kind of fight your way through that. So it'll be interesting. I still think there could be I'm holding some small amount of real estate on Logan Reichert Island. I'm gonna keep my investment for the long term. But yeah, go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, I got one more too. I just realized this. I was listening back as you were talking to, just from Drinkwitz said it. He name dropped Jack Lang too, who wasn't an early enrollee. He was class of 2025 offensive tackle, 4-star, rated in the top 250 when that was still a thing at Rivals. Highly sought after. Notre Dame was in there. He was a top recruit in Missouri. And keep going on and on. But you don't really see that very often where, he gets like kind of dropped in that conversation of being the backup right tackle. I think that's where he's kind of bound to play. He played a lot of it. Played a lot on the right side during the All-American Bowl, and that doesn't mean that's where he's bound to play, but he was brought up, and I think one thing Brandon Jones really likes about that trio that he got in the class of 2025 with Keaton Jones and Henry Fanuku is that they're all very tight and close, and a lot of them have versatility on that offensive line, and I think that's what he liked really early on. So they could, some of them could find themselves on the depth chart to start the season. I don't necessarily know if Keaton Jones would be in that conversation. They do really like his power, and maybe they're thinking about just moving him to the interior, just kind of moving forward. Played a lot of center too when he was in the All-American Bowl out of necessity. But they like the size, and he was like a power lifter too. Another thing that kind of played into that power. So it's a good group, and I think he really liked it. A lot of them were just very open to playing new positions, and so that trio could probably be somewhere. I think Keaton Jones probably just a little bit further behind as he tries to get a little bit more used to the interior as he was playing tackle when he was in Kansas. Nice.
I'll let that be the segue. I'll throw it to you, Kenny, first, but for both of you, what do you guys, do you have any bold predictions or just predictions about this O-line next year?
Yeah, so my bold prediction, Jack, and it does play into yours, I think, is probably going to be about Henry Fanuku. I've been just very bullish about him just for a long time, because you look at him like when he was in high school, or he was a state champion in high school, went to the All-American Bowl. He's like the most athletic looking guard that I've ever seen just in high school. And I don't really have too much like knowledge and history of looking at, offensive guards, but he was just so nimble on the interior. He's playing a little bit of center too in camp. And he's not going to take anyone's job, I don't think, going into the season, just because he's still trying to get used to it. But he put on 20 plus pounds this spring. He was an early enrollee. He's very, very, very close with Coach Jones. His high school coach is like best friends with Coach Jones too. Coach Ray Gates down there in North Crawley and in DFW. So a lot of connections, and I think just with the size at 6'3", 298 pounds, I think he's going to find himself in the mix early on in some of those games where they start putting guys on the field a little bit early. And I'm not going to say he's going to burn his red shirt, but I wouldn't be surprised if we just see him in different aspects of a lot of those games early on.
Do you have a favorite maybe spot for him on the interior? Because I've heard him at center mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And that one kind of intrigued me. I mean, Connor Tollison, at this point it feels like he could just start forever, but that there's going to be a long-term replacement there. Do you have a favorite, from seeing him, a favorite spot you kind of project him toward?
I never really asked him about just like where he feels the most comfortable, just on the left side or the right side, but watching him, watching the offensive line, like from behind, from almost like a long quarterback's view, you watch him kind of step backwards. And at right guard, he just looks so natural. When I saw him in those practices in San Antonio in January, and I think that would be, his best fit. But if he does line up at center, that's, the backup center spot's a pretty open opportunity right now. Like we mentioned some names earlier, like Tristan Wilson, probably in that conversation too, or But I really think that, he could find himself trying to battle for a spot on the depth chart going into this year. And it probably be more at center. And we talk about that versatility, being wanting and being able to adapt and play more on the interior, play a different position. Because the right guard spot, you have two guys battling that are transfers, and Jalen Ernie and Dominic Kadicha. I don't think you're going to find yourself in that mix. So if he does have an opportunity to be the backup center at some point this season, I think he would jump all over it.
I knew I'd get a Fanuku take out of Kenny. I knew it. Heading in. Peyton, do you have a prediction for this offensive line room?
I don't think I really have a bold one, to be honest with you.
I don't really either. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a year where you really see. I'd really love to be able to say someone like Curtis Piegler or Tristan Wilson or someone along those lines really steps up and like maybe starts a couple games, but barring injury, I don't really see that happening right now. You have a lot of experienced guys. I'd really love to be able to see Whit Hafer really, really battle for the left tackle spot. I think that'd be really awesome. I mean, I like my jaw kind of dropped when I saw he was already 6'6", 301 as a redshirt freshman. That is really encouraging. He looks like someone that could really be a player in the future, but I don't think it's this year.
Kenny, I guess give us some Whit Hafer stuff to that end. I know you had a good story that you wrote about him that got a lot of traction. He's an interesting option coming over from the tight end room, but we talked about him even in the running back segment when we were looking at kind of running behind those, how important those tackles are with the wide zone stuff. But what'd you learn about Whit Hafer?
I do like to, I drop kind of notes on these sometimes, or I start my story as just like my lead with these things. And I try to explain to people like, a little bit about their character. I didn't cover Whit Hafer at all when I was in college. Just it didn't overlap at the same time. But he was surprised that someone wanted to talk to him. I think that was one of the biggest things that kind of came off to me. Like he was just sitting on his phone with some of the other offensive linemen. Like, Cayden Green was kind of pulled away to his own spot at a different table, and all the other offensive linemen were just kind of together. And he was just like, kind of like, he didn't point at himself, but he was like, me, you want to talk to me kind of thing. And I ended up talking to him. And one of the big things I got from him and Durham Cato and Brandon Jones is that you hear it a lot, the coach speak of, I just want to do anything for the team. One big thing he told me is like, I want to compete as much as I can for that spot. I want to play, but if they're going to put someone better than me that's going to play, then so be it. He's going to root for his teammates to be on the field. He understands that, he made a very quick and fast transition to offensive tackle. I saw him, comparing photos when he was a senior in college to a freshman or senior in high school, a freshman in college. He's a completely different looking guy. Like he is full, like all the way through. It's not like it's just like in his gut or like in his arms or anything. His neck is bigger. Like he looks the part. And we have a photo of him just on that article I wrote to Mizzou today. We couldn't get really close up on him. You look at him. If I told you that was a tight end last year, you think I'm lying. Like he just looks the part for offensive tackle. They're very, intrigued by him though, because he ran a 4.8 and a 40-yard dash. He's still, put on 40 pounds so quickly, and he still has all this nimbleness and athleticism that played well when he was a tight end and a pass catcher. And one thing he said is like, I'm not really going to miss, catching the ball. My primary role when I was a tight end just at Mizzou was blocking. And so he likes that. And he said, if I really just want to go get a ball in my hands, I'll go play basketball with my friends or something. But he was very open about
get
it.
His fill. Scratch the itch that way.
Get his need that he needs to score or something. And they really like his work ethic, and Drinkwitz's name dropping him is a good thing. And he really liked that. But one of the big things he told me about is he's trying to like emulate like the mentality of the offensive linemen around him. He's really leaned into, learning a lot more about the technique, and it's come a little bit quicker just because he was a blocking tight end. But he's still trying to like be a bulldog on the offensive line. He's like, just go every rep, put my hand in the dirt and just be ready to go. That's one thing he's kind of focusing on too this fall, is he's trying to, get on that too deep.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think, he's a really fun project that I think we're going to, when we do this in a year from now, I think we could be saying some pretty interesting stuff about him. I don't have a bold one either. I think there's a really interesting Keegan Tross thing. There's one thing too, Kenny, I'll go back to briefly, where you talked about that continuity and kind of the closeness between Jones, Jack Lang, and Fanuku as freshmen. Drinkwitz, I saw in an interview, was like, kind of our secret sauce on this team for so many years has been kind of our continuity. And, I think sort of letting that overcome some of maybe the talent deficiencies when you compare Mizzou to some other teams in the SEC. So I think that's really encouraging too, that some of those younger guys are already close. But yeah, I think, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'll jump in on that too real quick, just because I didn't write about this in my Jason Dowell story. But I asked Jason Dowell, who's a defensive tackle. He's the only freshman defensive tackle. I was like, you guys were telling me for months, how excited you guys were to play together. Just everyone in this class of 2025. Drinkwitz mentioned it in the press conference on signing day. They all had a group chat. They were all rooting for each other. When Sean Terry was in the state championship, everyone was like watching the highlights, sending him in their text group chat. I asked him, it was like, yeah, he's like, it's just so weird. Like now, like we've been like thinking about this for almost a year. And like, I just look across just in the locker room and I see Matt Zollers, I see Jack Lang, I see Donovan Alubade, I see Sean Terry. Like they're just so close. And I think I don't think you necessarily see that just yet in the class of 2026, or a lot of, guys from different parts of the country haven't really all visited together at the same time. But I think that's going to be a big thing kind of moving forward if a lot of those 2025 guys stick around.
Yeah, that's a long-term, I think, investment that, even on the O-line, you see that with those three guys. But yeah, I'll just, I was doing just some thinking with Keegan Trost, and I wonder if there is a Marcus Bryant comparable there in terms of the kind of role he gets where he's just solid. And I guess that I wanted to go really bold. It's that Keegan Trost earns a little bit of NFL buzz, like late round, with a good season this year. I think, this is a kid who, he was at Morgan. He's our age, first of all. He graduated in the same high school class as the three of us did, 2019, which is just wild. He's in his 7th season of football, Morgan State, Indiana State, and then Wake, and now he's at Mizzou. He seems like a worker. I was reading something somewhere about how his like leadership and stuff like that has been great since high school. So I think there's kind of a fun, maybe fan favorite piece with him. And then obviously just the numbers are rock solid at Wake Forest, and I think that's what you're going to need. You're not going to replace Armand Membu in a day. And I think this is about as solid of an option as you can get, just to have some good cover there. And I wonder if just there is a Marcus Bryant thing with him, where if he really just locks that position down, takes a lot of the reps, stays healthy, they run a lot toward his side, if he can be a productive kind of piece there, maybe earn some NFL things. But I'm excited about him. I think he's got a fun story at the very least. But that's as bold as I can go. There's some offensive line stuff. The left tackle battle, we'll kind of keep monitoring it. A lot of these things we'll revisit, like we keep saying, as the fall goes on and as fall camp goes on for Mizzou, and we'll come back to our predictions as well as the season goes. But there's some offensive line things. Interesting room next year, trying to replace Armand Membu. And we will segue and finish off the show on the other side with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. We have jerseys of the week. Kenny, your jersey.
My jersey of the week goes to Emma Robbie, who's returning to Mizzou in a coaching role under head coach Larissa Anderson. She'll be the director of player development and director of camps. She played for Missouri from 2019 to 2022, so 1 year older than us, but she was a part of that team that went to the 2021 NCAA Super Regional and two NCAA regional appearances. A quote from Anderson: "We're thrilled to have Emma back home as our director of player development. Her experience as a Tiger and the success she had as a coach at Nebraska Omaha have prepared her to make a tremendous impact on our program. Emma's loyalty and love for Mizzou softball are unmatched, and we're lucky to have her passion and leadership back in the black and gold."
Yeah, she was really good in her tenure as a player for Mizzou. I totally forgot she did go to Omaha as an assistant for a while before coming back. So that's a good note. Continuing the coaching experience, always good to see like a former player come back in the fold. So good for Emma Robbie. Payton, your jersey.
My jersey of the week is going to be a surprise commit for Mizzou women's basketball. I believe it's probably, they did say in their tweet, the final piece. It's going to be forward Rekka Toman out of Hungary, an international player. I do actually have stats from FIBA basketball. In the 2025 FIBA U19 Women's Basketball World Cup, she played in 7 games, averaged 10 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, and an assist per game. So pretty solid looking ad as your last piece of the roster, like really late into the year, like as well. Like this was announced on July 28th. So appears that Kelly Harper's first full roster is now complete for Mizzou women's basketball.
Yeah, you see a lot more like coaches these days taking swings at kind of these younger international prospects. That's a very growing trend across college basketball now that like the eligibility stuff is a lot easier to get in this day and age. So, good to see Kelly Harper getting in on that. Yeah, 7.5 points a game last year. I was gonna make you guys like we did, like I've done so much with Noah Carter, try and pronounce the team she played for in Hungary, but it's actually not that difficult. It's just Darazak. So not that fun. She didn't play for a crazy sounding team name. But yeah, cool ad for Mizzou women's basketball. Very exciting upcoming season. I'm excited to dive into it. My jersey of the week. I'm giving it to Donovan Olubade for no other reason than I love to just talk and over talk about crazy camp and practice highlights. He made a really nasty one-handed catch at Mizzou's fall camp. I believe Perbula threw him the ball. Just went up and snagged it in the end zone. I'm excited. This is a good preview too. We're going to have the wide receiver preview next. And I know Kenny's already has a lot of understanding of Olubade's prep career, and I think he's going to be a fun kind of long-term option. I'm pretty sure it's Perbula. It looked like a 9 to me. So that threw it to him. Also, some people were saying it was like a bad throw. I feel like it was a good throw. Got it on the outside of the numbers.
Like outside shoulder. So I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think it's a good throw. It's just made a nasty catch. But
maybe you want a little more loft. I don't know. I'm not a QB coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, Knowlton, we're talking about receivers here soon. My hot take is about Olubade. That's where my bold prediction's going.
I don't even think it's going to be a hot take by the end of the year. I think you're going to be just like I would like we could look back on
that's the whole thing. Yeah, it's a bold
you just never know with freshman receivers though.
Oh, I'm with you. Like whatever you say. Like I'm going to support whatever you say about him. Josh Manning, who doesn't really say much. I asked him about Olubade, and they call him Don too. I think we just call him Don.
The Don.
They call him the Don. They just call him Don.
No, but like I'm gonna call him the Don. Then.
Okay, and then it's
just
king of nicknames. You're the only person who ever calls them these nicknames too.
Fake nicknames, yeah. Hollywood, the Don. I'm watching The Sopranos right now.
They literally call him Speedy, but you call him Hollywood.
Spoiler alert for what my bold wide receiver prediction is going to be.
So the only thing we got really like off track there. Joshua Manning said that he's like just has really strong hands, and then this play came out like a day later. Like that was the one thing he told me, and he made a play like this too in spring camp. So he's not afraid to just put one hand up and try to catch the football.
Yeah, needless to say, everything we've heard about Olubade has been absurdly good. So I'm excited.
We need more practice highlights too. Like they get little clips. I need more Mizzou football to post more.
Coaches will never ever authorize that. They want to keep everything under wraps as possible. Under wraps as possible.
Well, now every team in the SEC knows that Olubade can do this with one hand, so now they're going to watch both hands.
Well, let's see if they tweeted a video of Logan Muckey catching like a ball with one hand next practice or something.
They're going to tweet a fake field goal, actually, so people know that they're doing that.
Put that on tape.
That Blake Craig photo is a gem, by the way.
The one that I had?
With Eric Link. It's a
we
gem.
Don't need to pull
that was really lucky that I found that because those are the two people I used in my story, and I found a photo with both of them in it.
Yeah, just watching a field goal go through the goalpost. This is where I can also humbly brag. I've played on that field that Donovan Olubade caught that ball.
That is incorrect. You have not played on that field.
Oh, is it the new one? Oh,
that is the new one.
It's the new one.
The new one's only been open like 2-3 years now.
Well, I didn't know if they still use the old one.
They do not for football.
I like no cap, and he's the main bird.
Main bird of the week, Kenny.
Oh man, you guys are gonna rip me for this. So Tristan Newsom's my main bird of the week. He's on the Butkus Award watch list. A bunch of other linebackers across the country. Well, he played for a Cat team in high school. He played for a Cat team in JUCO. He plays for a Cat team now. My bird connection is that he almost flew away. You have to think about it. He almost flew away into the transfer, or not the transfer portal, but into the great beyond college football. But then he came back because he got an extra year of eligibility. So that's my.
Is this really it?
Yeah, that's my.
Oh my God!
This is the worst. That's the worst.
Ding, 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 ding. We found it.
We have a winner.
Worst bird connection we have ever had on this show is right here, folks. Kenny just said Tristan Newsome almost
He's gone.
flew away. He's not a bird. He's a man. He has never played for a bird team. Kenny, he played against Auburn last year. That is a better one. I know you're not in the
literally.
room
We use
currently.
that
I'm
as
still
all the
going to rip
time.
into you for this.
Wow. He just said he went into the great beyond. It sounded like he was saying that Tristan Newsome was ascending to heaven from college football.
Well, great beyond football. Like he was done with football and then he wasn't.
What does that
He came
mean?
back. He came back.
That's a bad one, Kenny. I'm not going to let you off
yeah.
the hook for that
All
one.
right, I'm going to spend the rest of the show trying to find another connection.
Thanks. Shout out Tristan Newsome, though. I might have a bold pick about him maybe for when we get to defense. Payton, main bird.
My main bird of the week is going to be Anthony Robinson II, Mizzou's fiery point guard, because he got a pretty cool honor. Mizzou Hoops tweeted this also on July 28th. Learning from the point guard, Anthony Robinson II is one of 12 players nationally to earn an invite to the at CP3 Elite Guard Camp. Chris Paul III's Elite Guard Camp.
I've never heard anyone call him Chris Paul III. Sorry.
That's what he is.
Yeah, he is. That's true. It's fine.
Or is he the third?
It's actually, he might not be the third. It might just be, isn't it just because
I think that's just his number.
Yeah,
Sorry, I've totally
number.
screwed that up. Kenny's got me all mixed up. I'm trying to think of Tristan.
All right, here's
Newsome.
my bird connection. Tristan Newsome has only one post on his Instagram that's not like for an NIL opportunity, and it's against Iowa. Boom.
Oh,
That is a lot better.
Iowa.
Yeah, he's not
Ascending into the
Chris
great
Paul
beyond.
the third. He's just Chris Paul. His number is 3. So my bad on that, Chris Paul. Point is, he invited Anthony Robinson to his elite guard camp. He's one of only 12 in the country. If you're looking for a bird connection, Chris Paul, jersey number 3. He played for the New Orleans Hornets, who later became the New Orleans Pelicans.
This would be the worst one if Kenny hadn't.
That's not
taken
true.
the cake.
That's a good one.
It
I
would have
gave
been the
that
worst one
one
of the
to
show.
Payton too. It's not even original.
He didn't play.
Yeah, you
for the
did.
Pelicans.
You made me. I said I'd
didn't make
find
you do
one later,
anything.
and you didn't even make me do that. You just gave me the answer. So, but good for Ant Robinson. I think, needless to say, if Mizzou is going to take a step forward or just even get back to the tournament, they're going to need Anthony Robinson to take another big step this year.
Also, once again, one of the better handles on Twitter, Ankle Bully Ant. It's an elite. It's an elite at. Hopefully that helps him kind of grow being at that camp. My Sean East main bird of the week is going to Corey Batoon. The bird connection first and foremost. Kenny will, I think, appreciate this one. At Florida Atlantic, Corey Batoon served as the safeties coach, special teams coach, and co-DC under Kenny
Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin, your guy.
Lane train.
The Lane train. So that's my bird connection. They are the Owls. Anyway, Corey Batoon, the headline, he was extended actually just today when we're recording this on July 31st. They extended him through the 2027 season. Mizzou did. So another kind of bonus for Drinkwitz. Obviously, he got that extension. There's some more pay fluctuation that he's able to do with some assistance. Corey Batoon, I believe, did earn a little bit of incentives. I believe it's $1.2 million starting in 2026. So he is extended through the 2027 season. A couple numbers when I was just looking at these stories. Last year, Mizzou was 5th and 3rd down defense. I didn't realize this. They were 33rd and 47th in the previous 2 seasons. That really was a tremendous improvement in 3rd down defense. 17th in FBS in yards allowed per game under Corey Batoon.
Yeah, the numbers were a lot better than I honestly thought. Like, I didn't think Mizzou was a bad defense last year. I thought they were a good defense, but I didn't realize they actually were like top 20 in a lot of big metrics. So very impressive job, because I also don't think the personnel he was given was near what it was in 2023, and I don't think it was near what it's going to be in 2025. So I think I would say it's a pretty well earned. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows in his first season there, but I think it was a lot more good than bad under Corey Batoon.
And I think they're doing everything they can to keep him around too, just beyond the season. Because I think the one interesting note I just took of it, $300,000 base salary in the next 2 years, 2025 and 2026. You get a $100,000 signing bonus with this, But then he also gets $100,000 of a retention bonus if he's still around by February 1st, 2026. So like the totals would be $1.5 million because there's 1.1 million non-salary guarantee in 2025, and then 1.2 in 2026. So 1.6 or 1.5 and 1.6 respectively over the next 2 seasons.
Yeah. So, I think good extension for Corey Batoon, and I agree, Payton. I think it's going to be exciting to see what he works with next season. Best thing you learned this week, Payton? What'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week, and this is a really cool one. Mizzou is adding an exhibition game in basketball against Kansas State. It's Friday, October 24th at Mizzou Arena. They didn't put an exact time on the tweet, but it's happening on Friday, October 24th against K-State. Like that's a fun game. Like I know it's an exhibition, but cool way to get a first look at the team. I believe like it's because the NCAA like kind of relaxed like rules on exhibition games.
They did. Yeah.
So that kind of allowed this to happen. I'm excited for this. I hope they stream it somewhere. I hope there's somewhere we can watch that. Again, all these cool things happen the second we leave campus. Because I mean, if we were still going to Mizzou, I'd 100% clear my calendar for this.
Yeah, there's been some, because this started last year too. Because I remember Alabama played Memphis and Wake Forest in a couple of exhibition games, and like sometimes they struggle to like find TV for those, which I think is so weird. Because I like even if you like put it on a YouTube channel or somewhere and just make it free for everybody, it's an exhibition game anyway. But yeah, I hope we can see this. Kansas State's going to be really interesting. They got PJ Haggerty from Memphis, who's going to be really good next year. So be interesting to see like Ant guard him. Jerome Tang. Are you guys Jerome Tang guys? I like Jerome Tang. He's a fun coach.
I don't have any reason to really dislike him. I know some Mizzou fans do. I mean, I think that's by proxy of being hired the same year as Gates, being in the same kind of general region.
They went on that run too.
Yeah, I don't have any real ill will towards Jerome Tang. It's not like Kansas State has been a powerhouse under him. They've really taken a step back the last couple of years.
Yeah. So this is super fun overall, not to get in a Jerome Tang conversation. Yeah, hopefully we can watch this if you're not there. So that'll be exciting. Kenny, what'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week is that we're going to have like the Shrine Bowl watch list and the Senior Bowl watch list coming out. The Shrine Bowl, I mean, is started to look better and better over his last couple of years, even before Jim Nagy left the Senior Bowl, the Reese's Senior Bowl, to become the general manager at Oklahoma. But good watch list here with 15 Missouri Tigers: Stephen Hall, Bo Perbula, Tristan Newson, Connor Tollison, Josiah Trotter, Toriano Pride, Jalen Catalon, Damon Wilson, Dalen Carnell, Brett Norfleet, Zion Young, Nate Johnson, Cayden Green, Chris McClellan, and Kevin Coleman Jr. One takeaway, I mean, do you guys feel old that Brett Norfleet is on this list?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts.
That's wild.
He has legit draft buzz behind him, too. I believe Matt Miller at ESPN is a fan of his. So,
why wouldn't you be? The Fleet.
My main takeaway from this is Stephen Hall's name is misspelled. They put 3 L's in Hall. Come on, guys. Clean that up.
They sure did. Stephen Hall.
Yeah. On Brett Norfleet, too, Jack. I know you were an early fan. Kenny and I were grinding his high school tape.
All right. Fair enough. That's probably why I became an early fan. I think you guys probably just told me, like, watch this. And I was like, yeah. I'm in.
We've been the Brett Norfleet pod.
The Unwritten Rule are strong members of the Fleet. The Norfleet. Yeah, very exciting. And watch list just means college football is close to coming back. My best thing I learned this week. First of all, you'll notice I mentioned it in the intro as well. You notice the new branding. Believe in our pods, partnering with FanDuel. Very excited. We're going to bring the Best Beats segment back, I think, for NFL season and do some things with them. So some exciting developments in our own pod world. And thank you to FanDuel for helping present our pod. But I say all that to say, fellas, we've got some competition now in the podcast game from none other than Sophie Cunningham. She launched her own podcast. This was in the news this past week. She's calling it Show Me Something, very apropos. to her Mizzou roots. She's hosting it too. I've never heard of this guy, West Wilson. I don't know if I should have. Maybe that's my lack of pop culture game. He's on some show called Summer House on Bravo. Also, never heard of it. But he's also apparently a Como native. So he's hosting a pod with Sophie Cunningham. Pop culture, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, among other topics. The first episode, I believe, of it already dropped as well. So kind of cool. Sophie Cunningham, like, she's grown her kind of reach tremendously since joining the Indiana Fever. They talked about that as well in the article, and kind of growing her following. But yeah, guys, we have some competition from a fellow Tiger in the podcast game now.
Yeah, no, her like you said, her stock has risen tremendously since joining Indiana. So good for her.
Yeah.
And on 3, we have channels and like their own team websites. So we can go you can look on the channel and it's just like all the national stuff that's written by Mizzou. And it'll have like Kyle and I stuff like over on the side, just if you're looking just for national coverage. And there were 3 Sophie Cunningham articles written on Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday. There was another one. Sophie Cunningham receives pro wrestling offer from Lakers owner.
Yeah, that was wild. I almost picked that one. Also, yeah, sure. That's one of the most random headlines I've ever read.
Which is funny because is this like the biggest headline for Genie Bus recently? Or would it be like selling the Lakers?
Yeah. I think offering Sophie Cunningham a wrestling deal is actually much more important. Than the sale of one of the biggest sports franchises. So yeah, there you go. Sophie Cunningham. Good for her, growing her personal brand. That's all I have, fellas. Payton? A joke?
I sure do, Jack. This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys, who do you call to clean the ocean? It's an easy one.
All I'm thinking about is those AI videos of the tractors on top of the whales. Do you call a sponge?
No.
SpongeBob?
Mermaids.
Oh, that's good.
Definitely not calling BP.
I was thinking the same thing.
You do not want to call them. They suck.
Not good at cleaning. All right. That'll do it for the unwritten rule. We will have wide receiver preview on Monday. Very excited for that. Clearly, I have to do some more research. The other fellas clearly have some bold takes already queued up. So that'll be a good show. We'll have that for you guys on Monday. And until then, we'll see you next time.